let's start.
So last week we learned about NumPys, and this week we are starting with Pandas. So Pandas is basically a Python library used for data science, primarily used for data science and in data wrangling and data analysis. So Pandas has two basic data structures or data types, we call them as series and data frame. Data frames are, you can think data frames just like in Excel spreadsheet. It has rows and columns. And a series, you can think of a column in a spreadsheet. So basically, each individual series in a series make a data frame. Like this is the series 1, series 2, series 3. And if you combine all of them, you get a data frame. Series are one-dimensional and data frames are multi-dimensional. The other difference between an Excel spreadsheet and data frame, you can think is like data frames are more robust and are more flexible and can hold a very large data set. And it has labels for rows and columns. Whereas in Excel sheet, you just have those ABC kind of stuff. And if you don't have Pandas installed, you can install it by using pip install pandas on the command prompt. And if you're using Anaconda, it already has Pandas installed. And still, if you're struggling with it, you can check this link. It will guide you how to move on with Pandas installation. And like NumPy, we import Pandas, and we use the convention as import Pandas as PD. Pandas is based upon NumPy. So I usually always import NumPy because I don't know where I would need something related to NumPy. We'll start with this. This is a list. We have come across list many times in our Python course. Here, the values are the values is 8.9, 4.1. There are like 6 values, and I'm creating a list. Then I'm converting that list into a NumPy array. This is just to show you how series are created using both of them. I didn't run this. And now then, once the list is created, we can use that list to create a series. You do that by using pd.series, and then you give data equals to my list. Similarly, you can also create a series using a NumPy array. So now this list is created. This data thing is optional. If you don't want to give it, you can still write it just by typing it as pd.series and my list. It would still create a series. Then you can see it. These are called indexes, and these are the values, and this is a data type. You can have integer also, or you can also have string series. In case of string, you would see something like this. And you can, this is another way of creating a series. Sorry, it should have been series 1. So now you can see a series which has a string as values, but here you will not see string as a data type. For all the string data types, pandas refers it as objects. So how do you access values from these series? You do this by writing, if you want a second element, you just write my series dot to. It would give you this element 3.4. By second element, I mean the values at the index 2. If you know the concept of arrays, it always starts with an index 0 and it moves. The same concept is followed here as well. Now coming to, if you want, these doesn't have labels. If you want to label your rows, you can do this by writing my labels equals to first, second, third, fourth. You can give any of your variables here, name to the variable. And then you just use the same convention like pd.series, data equals to my list, and index equals to my labels. So now instead of numbers, you have these labels. Coming to how do you retrieve only first 3 elements from the series? So for that, it is the same way we had learned in our NumPy class. You give the starting point and an ending point. So now it will only show the rows from 0 to 3. Similarly, if you want to see a last 2 elements from the series, you can write something like this, -2. If you want to see the last 3, you can just change it to -3. Moving on to data frames. So here I'm just creating a 5 by 5 matrix. So you see here, there are no labels here, but we can assign the labels similarly the way we did in series. For that, you just have to mention like index and the name for the rows, and then columns and names for those columns. So now it looks more like a spreadsheet, right? You can see first row, second row, third row, and then first column, second column, third column. Similarly to series, you can access a data frame directly by using a column name. Series has only one column, but data frame can have many. So this is one of the ways where you can access the data. And if you want to access multiple columns, you can create a list and write the names of the columns which you want to extract. Or you can also do something like this, df2, third column, first column. Both of them would give you a similar output. So now it is only displaying third and first column. Similarly, you can drop a column. Here, this axis and in place, these are like 2 important things which you need to remember when dropping a column. Axis equals to 0 means you want to drop the index or the rows. And axis equals 1, that means you want to drop the column. And if you don't use this in place or true, it will just create a copy which will not have this column. But if you write in place or true, it would change the actual data frame. If I just do this, the first column is, you will think the first column is dropped. But if I check the data frame, you can still see the first column. And when I run this in place.true, this is actually when the column is dropped from the data frame. Now I'll move on to the case study. Anybody has any doubts with whatever we have learned till now, like the series or data frame? If you have no doubts, then we will move on. So as a data scientist, you will always access some data sets from a CSV file or a tab separated file or or database SQL tables or JSON files. Here I'm referring only a CSV file. This is an insurance data set. You can download this insurance data set from this particular link on Kaggle. So this case study is basically about an insurance data set. These all values like age, sex, BMI, children, smoker, all these are like a crucial attributes for making business decisions. Here we are going to explore what all value can we generate or find out, get some insights about the data, which can help the business to make some crucial business decisions. So with this data set, what is that you want to find out or analyze? What can you think of? What all questions should we answer with all these attributes like age, sex, BMI, children, smoker? Then this region is the beneficiary space of residence. It is divided into 4 regions: Northeast, Southeast, Southwest, and Northwest. And the charges are the medical cost that is billed to the health insurance. So basically, when you think of health insurance, we expect like people who are not healthy would have more claims compared to people who are healthy, or people who are smokers would have more claims, or people who have higher BMIs or have unhealthy lifestyle, they would have more medical claims. So these all are like some hypotheses which we have. Now, with this data set, we will check if all these hypotheses are correct. So these are some questions which I wanted to answer using this data set. Like, are there more male beneficiaries or in this data set? Or are there more smokers? What are the number of female smokers in this data set? The maximum amount of individual cost that is billed to the insurance, minimum and maximum age of the beneficiary, count of people who are males who have BMI greater than 30. These are some questions which we will look and get answers to. And these are some assignment questions which you can do it on your own once we finish with this session. So as usual, we start with importing pandas. This year, I am just bringing my data set into this Google Colab notebook. Once this is run, you can see there is a folder created in the files, and I can access, just a second, I can access my just give me 2 minutes. Something went wrong with my battery. With this, I'm just bringing the data set from my GitHub. So here you can see accessinsurance.csv. When you right click this, you can copy the path and you can paste it here. So we start with importing pandas and NumPy. And this is the data path where my CSV file is located. If you're using it on your local machine, you will have to download this and store it in some directory, which is easily accessible here. To read a file, Pandas has this pd.read CSV, and you just mention the name of the file, CSV file. Once I run this, the data set is loaded in this data frame named DF. Similar to read CSV, Pandas also had something called as read Excel, then read JSON files, read SQL tables. There are many other options. Now, once you have read the CSV file and it is in this data frame, it is always good to check whether you have a correct data set in your data frame. Like this was the file which I wanted, and is it actually loaded, and is the same file which I wanted. Then you check for columns, column headers, what are the columns, what are the data types, the dimensions. So that like NumPy, Pandas also has this shape thing, which helps to find out the dimensions of the data frame. So this data set has 1,338 rows and 7 columns. The other way to display this is also by using df.shape and access the value at 0. So 0 is for rows and 1 is for columns. Then you check if this is the correct data set. For that you can use df.head. If you know Unix, this head and tail, it comes from Unix. The same thing you can do it in Unix. By default, this head will show you 5 records. But if you want to display more, you just provide a number here. Right now it is showing me 10 observations. First 10 observations. Similarly, you have df.tail, which returns the last 5 observations from the data set. And here as well, you can give some value. Now I have provided 25 here, and there are 25 observations which can be seen. Then you check for the data types. What all data types are there? Pandas is very smart. It comes up with this data types by reading the content of the CSV file. So age had all integer values. So the data type here is N64. Then sex is string values. But as I mentioned before, it will always be seen as object. Then BMI is float. So like here, if you see, it is 34.70, 23.65. So here BMI, the data type which Pandas is selected is float. But sometimes there are times when Pandas didn't select the data type correctly. For example, if these age had something like 19 years or some other thing added to it, like 19 and YERS. So this age, it would consider it as an object instead of number. But if we want to do some calculations based on this, we will have to remove that string and change this back to a number. Then similarly to head and tail, there is something called a sample, which will show us different samples from our data set. Like the head only showed the first top rows, tail only showed the last rows. But sample, it will show any random sample from the database. If I keep running this again and again, you will see there are different observations which are being displayed here. Right now it is 366 and 56. If I run this again, you will see something else. To reproduce this result, you can use random and state. Now here I will give something called as 10. So every time I run this, it will always show me this particular sample. And if I don't give this, it will keep on randomly showing me different samples from the data set. Moving on to DF info. So whatever we have seen, the dimensions, then the data types, all this can also be displayed using DF info. In Pandas, there are like multiple ways of doing things. So I'm showing the basic things which you should know. So when you do df.info, you can see the indexes. That is the rows here, 1,338 rows. It will show there are 7 columns. Then the name of the columns and whether it is non-null and the data type. Right now, we don't have any missing values. So you can see it is showing 1338. In case there are some missing values, it will be less than 1338. There are ways to check missing values. We will come to that later. You just want to see the names of the columns. You can use df column. Right now, my data set is very small, so I can see this in a single shot because there are only 6. But I am working on some other data set that is in housing data set, and it has like 100 columns. And those 100 columns, it is very difficult to see, and Pandas doesn't display them completely. So this is like another method which you can use to know what all columns are available. Then if you want to find out values associated with those columns, you just do df values. We had seen before, you can create a subset of data. Like instead of seeing all the columns at once, I just want to see about age, sex, and BMI. So this is how you do it. You make a list, create a list, and then use that list in this data frame, like df, open bracket, square bracket, name of the list, and head. So it will just show me age, sex, and BMI here. As I told you, like if you have 100 columns, seeing the data at once for all the 100 columns is not possible and not the right way to go ahead. So it is always better, like I know these all, I just want to see these specific columns or data associated with this specific column. This is the way you do it. This is another way of just selecting columns which are numbers. How do you do that? You use something called as select D type and include np.number. This thing will only give me data types which are numbers. Similarly to this, we can change it to np.object and it will only give me columns that are string types. And if I want the data associated with this column, like I want to display data for only object data type column, this is how you do it. You write df, then you're passing a list of columns which you want to see by selecting the data type as object. So here you'll see we have these object types, text, smoker, and region, and same has been displayed here, the values for these columns. If you want to find out unique values for a particular column, you can use value count. Here, I want to find out about regions, how many regions are there in this data set, and how many observations belong to each of these regions. So you can see in Southeast, there are 364 observations that belongs to Southeast region, then 325 belongs to Southwest, 325 to Northwest, and 324 in Northeast. The other way of doing this, I have written df.region here. We can also write something like this. Instead of giving dot, you can just use square brackets. But I prefer, what did I do? Oh, I missed an S, sorry. You can use this method or this method. I prefer this because in that case, I don't have to type and there will be less spelling mistakes compared to this method. Now, if you want to sort values from your data frame, you can use this sort_values method. You just have to mention like you want to sort the data frame using which attribute. Here I'm using by age. By default, it will sort in ascending order. But if you want it in descending order, you just have to mention ascending equals to false. And it will sort it in descending order. Now you can see the age is 64. It starts with 64 and it goes down. These all functions we will be using as we move ahead. Then if you need to find out distinct values for each column, like we have age, sex, when you see the data, you don't know exactly what all values the region can have. Here I'm seeing like southeast, southwest, northwest. Maybe there are some more regions which are not visible. So the best way to find out how many distinct values the column has, you use df unique. So age has 47 distinct values, sex has 2, BMI has 548, then children has 6, smokers 2, whether the person is a smoker or a non-smoker. Similarly, region, there are 4 distinct regions. And to see what exactly are those values, you write unique. This was n unique, number of distinct values. And if you just write unique, select the column name and just write unique, it will show what is the value. If we need to check it for region, you just write unique. And you can see like for region, there are 4 different regions. These features are really these functions are really very helpful if you have a very large data set, the one which I mentioned, like the housing data set, which has 100 columns. So in that case, out of those 100 columns, maybe 50 are numerical and 40 are string or object types. So, and each 40 of them has maybe like 10 different distinct values. So it is these functions like unique and n unique, it helps to find out, let us know like the cardinality of the columns, how many distinct columns does each column have. So we will start answering the questions which we wanted to start. Does anybody have any doubts before I start answering questions from this data set?
No, keep going.
Okay, Nisha. So the first question which I wanted to answer was, are there more male beneficiaries? We had seen value count, right? So this is something which will help us to find out how many observations belong to each of these categories. So male, there are 676 observations or beneficiaries that are males and 662 beneficiaries that are female. You can also, both the things are same. You can use any of the methods, but this is my favorite method. So what do you think? Are there more male beneficiaries than female beneficiaries? Yes. There are 676 males and there are 662 females in this data set. Then let's move on to the next one. Are there more smokers or less smokers? So we again use value count. And we want to find about smokers. Therefore, I'm using df smoker and then value count. So are there more smokers? No, there are no more. There are more non-smokers. There are 1064 non-smokers and 274 smokers in this data set. And you can use something called as df.copy to make a copy of this data frame. Here I'm copying my data frame and moving it to ensure. This is mostly used when you're going to actually manipulate the data set and you don't want to touch the main data frame. You always want to refer to your main data frame. And if you're making any changes to the data or the column headers or filling some missing values, it is always the best practice to make a copy of this main initial data frame. So this is what I have done. I have moved it to ensure. and then check if it has been reflected here. So we have a new data frame that is ensured. We'll move on with this. As I mentioned before, like Pandas is very smart. It takes the data types on its own. But what if we are not satisfied with the data types Pandas has taken? So we'll have to convert it. Like I don't have any date data type here. But if it was, Panda would still take it as an object. But I want to work with those dates. I can't work with dates if they are an object. So I'll have to convert it into or cast it into date time. So for that you use something called as AS type. Here I want to convert these objects to categories. Why I would do that? Because now the data set is very small and it is only occupying like 73 KB of the memory. But when you have very large data sets, this memory thing will start creating problems. It was 73 KB is nothing, but if I'm working on a large data set of big data, this memory thing will start creating problems for me. So I'm converting these objects to categories. For that, I'm using AS type, and then you mention category. Similarly, we can do it for date time. Instead of category, you just say to date. You use something called as to date. Now let's see if this has actually helped me in saving some memory. Here you see it is 73.3 KB and it has changed to 46 KB. So there's always good practice to just change this object with many repeated values to category. And then moving forward with, if you have to add or rename or drop some columns, this is how you do it. You just mention name of the column, new column with whatever you want to create. I'm just mentioning new column and then assign the data which you want that column to have. And here I'm check it. So this new column has been created and it has values A, B, C. But I don't like this name. It has spaces and I don't want these spaces. So I will change the name of my column. For that, I have to use something called as rename. Data frame, name of the data frame, then rename, and the column which has to be changed. Here, this is a dictionary. We have learned about dictionaries in a Python class, right? So this is a dictionary. You use a curly bracket, then you mention the name of the old column. Then this is the key, and then this is the value which I want the new column to have. Same like the way I mentioned before, in place equals to true, it would change the data frame. Yeah. And if you don't add in place equals to 2, it will only, the changes would be temporary and it will not actually change it. So now my column has been renamed to test and test add. I will drop this column because I don't need it. For drop, as we've seen before, you use drop for deleting columns. You mention columns equals to whatever is the name of column. You can delete 2 or 3 columns if you want. You just have to mention it in form of list. So basic principle of Pandas is if you want to work with multiple columns, you always pass it in a list to delete it. But here I don't have any other column which has to be deleted. So I will just use this. We'll check. And after all these operations, it is always a good practice to check how it has affected your data set. So this test add column, it has been dropped. Filtering and slicing data, that is something which we do a lot when we are analyzing data. Here slicing is just like you take a slice of pie from the whole. Similarly, you are just taking a subset or only particular columns from the actual data set. There are many ways to slice data. this is one simplest way where I just want to display first 25 columns, first 25 rows. So what I have done is it will start from 0 and it will go till 25. 25 in the sense 25 elements, but the index is 0 to 24. The other way to slice is this one. You mention which all columns you want, and then you get this subset. This is also one way of doing it. Instead of giving call and making a different variable and then passing it here, I am just passing the list directly. Just to be cautious when you're doing this, because here this is one square bracket which is needed for the list, and then another square bracket to get the actual data. Now coming to iloc and loc, these are like two important methods which we use. So basically, what is iloc? It is an index-based selection method where you pass an integer index. And while in loc, you use labels. Like you give the name as sex or something. And if you're using iloc, you would give sex is on first place. So you would give an index as 1 when you're using iloc. And the other difference between iloc and loc is like iloc will not include the last element of the range passed to it, while loc, it will use the last element of the range. I'll show you how it works. So here I start telling I want to start from 0th row till the 5th. Now here it would show me 5 rows, but it will be from 0 to 4. It will not include the 5th last element in the range. Now, if I want to get records from 2nd row till the 4th and columns only 0 to 3, this is how I do it. So if you see here, we have it's starting from 2nd and it stops here. It will not take the 4th one. That is the 32 male 28. It will not display that. It will only display 28 and 33. This we had seen in the NumPy class as well. And the columns 0 to 3. So it starts with age, sex, and BMI. If we want all the rows, but we want to limit our columns, like the syntax is df iloc from row. You mentioned from where you want to start, where you want to stop. Similarly, from which column you want to start, and ended which column. So here I want all the rows. So it is showing me 1, 3, 3, 8 rows. If you observe, when there are more rows, pandas doesn't display it. It will always show something as ... This is where actually these all creation of subsets and everything will help us, because there is no way we can see some like 1, 3, 3, 8 rows at a time. Now here we only have like 6 columns, but if there are 100 columns, as I mentioned, it would be very difficult to watch it on the screen. So the best way to move forward is create subsets, create smaller data frames using those subsets. And these are like some of the ways of using slicing. Now moving on to loc. As I mentioned before, loc, you have to provide the labels. So here I'm saying I want all the rows and I want columns starting from age to smoker. So this thing and this thing, it will give me the same output. Here I was selecting from 0 to 5. Here I'm mentioning from age to smoker. Our actual data set has something like fill charges, but I just want age, sex, BMI, children, and smoker. So using this loc method, you can do that. And what if I just want specific columns? As I mentioned before, you always pass a list. This loc and iloc thing is a bit confusing And when you start using, you will get lot of syntax errors because of missing a dot or missing a comma or missing a square bracket. I faced a lot of problems initially when I started using this log thing. You always remember this would be a list of columns which you want to display. Here, I can see age and smoker. Just because I mentioned it has a comma and not these two dots. I'm mentioning it as a comma. So it will only show me age and smoker and all the rows. Similarly, if I want to do it for maybe I want specific rows, I can do that like 0, I want a 4th row. So it is only showing me 0 and 4th row. And you will be wondering like, when would I use something like this? You will be using it when you have some data set where you see some outliers or some different values. When you come to visualization, you'll understand what outliers are. So in that case, you will need to check like, what is this particular value that is different from my rest of my data set. In that case, you will need to use something like this. I want to see these specific rows or these specific columns. This is when this log or ilog or slicing will help you. You can also filter out your data using these conditions. You just mention your condition inside this bracket. Here, I am trying to filter out data for females. I want all the observation which has sex equals to females. So I'm using something called insert.log, then bracket, and you mention your condition. So now if you see, it is only showing me 662 rows and sex is equal to female. I can change it to show me all the observations for only males. So now you can see we have 676 rows and sex is male here. Now let's answer some of the questions from using whatever we have learned. I want to find out number of female smokers in my data set. So I'm mentioning two conditions here. One is the sex should be female. Then the other condition is smoker. The value in smoker should be yes. So only when both these conditions are met, because I'm using an AND clause here, only when both these conditions are met by the observation, it would be counted. And I'm using a count function to count the number of values. If I don't use a count, it will just show me something like this. But I want a total count, so I'm using the count method. So we have 115 females who are smokers in this data set. This thing here, if I don't mention, I will still get the count, but I would get something like this. 117, 117, 117. But this is of like no use. If I want to store this into a variable, I'll not be able to do that. So I write, I want to count on basis of sex. So I get this 117 here. Now let's find out what is the maximum amount of medical cost that was billed to the insurance. How am I doing that? I'm using this charges column, and then I'm sorting values, and I'm doing ascending equals to false. We learned about the sort values above. So this is how you can use it. So now you see the maximum value that was charged is 63,770. That was the medical cost that was charged to the insurance. The other way of doing this would be you write insured and charges, and then you can directly say max. It will just give me this. You can use either of the ways to find out. We can create a subset of our whole data set and create a new data frame. So how do you do that? You use something like this. I'm creating a new data frame, df underscore male, and I am using this lock method, which I mentioned, and this condition, like where sex equals to males. I want to get all the observations where sex equals to male, and I'm creating my new data frame and naming it as df.male. Similarly, for female, I'm creating a new data frame. So let's create this new data frame and check the values for this data. Well, if this data frame is created, always keep verifying your steps. So now we have this new data frame where sex is all male. Similarly, for female, I'll use sample here. If you see, all this data frame has all the records for only females. So now we have two data frames, one for male and one for female. Now let's see if number of females, what is the number of females who has BMI greater than 30? For that, I am using the same lock method, and the condition is here, where BMI is greater than 30. This is same exactly like SQL. If you have worked in SQL, you will understand, like where you mention a condition in the where criteria, like where, and then you mention the criteria. This is somewhat similar to that. You say df.female.lock, and then you give your condition. Only observations which satisfy this conditions would be displayed. So I'm counting how many females have BMI greater than 30. So there are 334. So instead of, if I want to find out less than, maybe less than 35. So there are like 515 females who have BMI less than 30. Similar to that, we'll find out how many males have BMI greater than 30. So here I'm using the other data frame, df underscore male. There are 371 observations where males have greater than 30, BMI has greater than 30. You can, of course, do all this on the main data frame as well. But this is much simpler, because if you want to do this on the main data frame, you will have to write a lot of conditions. Like you'll have to include something called as, in short, sex equals to male. Then the next condition would be this. So just to make it more simpler and more readable, I have created different data frames. Anybody has any doubts? If not, then we'll move ahead. Okay. Then descriptive statistics is something very important, which we as a data scientist will keep on checking. It is primarily used to find out the distribution of data. And this one command, in-short.describe, it would give me a complete understanding of what kind of data I am dealing here with. Like there are 138 observations. Then age, 39 is an average age for the beneficiary. Then 30 is an average BMI. And there are, at least they have one kid. And these are the charges, the minimum, the mean average charges. Similarly, if you see, you can see the minimum value. The beneficiary has minimum age as 18 and maximum as 64. This is median. I hope you know about mean median. If you don't know, I'll just brief you about what mean median means. If I have something called as, if I need to find a mean, of maybe some variable. So if I need to find mean of some values, so this is how I do it. We add all the observations and we divide it by the number of elements. So this would give me the mean as 35. So basically the average. And the median, for median, what you do is, there are 6 values. So here I will take 40. 40 would be my median. But if I have more than that, suppose if I have odd values, if I have these kind of values, here I will, oh, sorry. If I have something like this, I will take the value as 40, the center. And if I have something like this, in that case, I have to only consider the middle 2 values, like I'll take 30 and 40. Only the middle values and then divided by 2. So my median is 35. So what is the difference between mean and median then? If both are giving me 35. If I have some extreme values here, my mean would change drastically, but my median will not. So here, instead of 60, if I have something or less 100, so you see my mean has changed. It has changed to 41, but my median will still remain the same. It is not affected by these extreme values. So basically this extreme value, we call it as an outlier. It is different from the usual values. So this particular describe function helps us to understand like what are the average values, what are the minimum values, and all those information we can find out from here. If you see, the mean here is 39 for age and the median is also 39. So that means there are no extreme values. But if you see charges, the median is 9382 and the mean is 1320. That means your data is skewed and there are some outliers or some extreme values. And of course, if you see, this is quite an extreme value compared to the values which we see here, 933, 9382 or something like that. So this 63 is something an extreme value, which will come ahead when we move with our analysis. By default, this describe doesn't, it handles the missing values, so you don't have to worry about it. If you just want to see, you just want to exclude numbers, you just want to see about the categorical variables. Here, you see, it doesn't show me about sex, smokers, and region, because describe by default only shows numerical values. And if you want to find out about categorical values, you use something called as, you just exclude the numbers. So now here it is showing me count and what are the unique values and what are the top observations which has, like we have seen, there are more males than females. There are more non-smokers and most of the observation belong to the Southeast. So this is also one method to find out like how many different, this is the frequency of how many times male have appeared. We have seen this by using value count. This is another way to find out. And if you want to see numbers and string both together, you will say this, include equals to all. So it will show the categorical as well as the numerical values here, both of them. We'll move to, let's find out what is the minimum and maximum age of the beneficiary. We have seen it in the diff, right? But this is also one way to find out. You use mean, you use max. You can also find out the mean here. You can find out the median, or maybe we'll try standard deviation. So all these kinds of functions are used when you want to find out the distribution of data. Moving on to data aggregations and combining data frames and group by. So this group by thing, we use it frequently when we want to like aggregate things and find out some particular, like if I want to find out medical cost sex wise, like how many, what are the mean average charges that had caused the insurance for males, then similarly for females. So here I am grouping it by sex, and then I'm using this finding out charges. So basically, what is happening behind the scene is all the observation for sex and as female and males, they are like you're just grouping them, and then you are finding out the mean charges. Similarly, if you want to find out the average medical cost region-wise, instead of sex, you change it to region. So these are the average charges region-wise. We had two different data frames, df.male and female.
Sorry,
So
sorry, Yogita, I think someone wants to ask a question. Sorry, someone's unmuted. Okay, go ahead, please. Who wants to ask a question? Anyone?
Is it Kim?
Let me see. I think it's Kim. Kim? Okay, maybe it's an error. I think she's muted herself.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. So we had two different data frames, male and female. What if I want to concatenate it back and make it a different data set again? So I can do that by using concatenate method. We also have something called as merge. It is similar. This merge thing is similar to the SQL operations which we do. Like you join two tables, you use outer join, inner join. The same thing we can use with merge. But right now our data doesn't have something where we can use merge. So I will just show you how to use concatenate. I'm concatenating this male as well as this female data frames. I'm using pd.concatenate. So this will give me my complete data set. Here I'm just using head, but if I don't use head, it will again give me 1, 3, 3, 8 rows and all those 7 columns. Then this is something like an extra feature which we can use to show something like in form of tables. So a pivot table, if you have seen in used in an Excel, it is the same funda. It would give you a useful information in forms of a table. Like if I want to create a pivot table for regions and show BMIs for all the regions. So this is how I use it. Like now, if you see, I can see the BMI for Northeast, Northwest, Southeast, Southwest. Here by default, it is showing me the averages. There are like, if you check this function, the aggregate function here is mean. If I want to change it to maybe median, I can do that. So now it is giving me the median BMI. Instead of averages, now it is showing me the median. Something like pivot table, we have something called as cross tables. Here, this will give you a more like in-depth kind of information. I wanted to know the like BMIs. I wanted to know BMI for a region, and if they are smokers, and what if they're not smokers. So here I'm mentioning the index as smoker. That gives me these two bifurcations. Like if they are non-smokers, I'll get a separate row, and if they are smokers, I get a separate row if I'm using index. Then I'm mentioning which I want to find out about which column. So I'm talking about regions. So column wise, you will see northeast, northwest, southeast. Then what are the values which I want to see? So I want to see the BMI, and I'm using mean here. So this is giving me mean for mean of BMI for smokers in northeast region, non-smokers. Similarly, this is giving me BMI for smokers in northeast region. So these are some advanced functions. You will start using it once you get more familiar with pandas. We had talked about missing values before. So how do you check if you have some missing values in your data set? If you just do is null, it is going to give you all false, 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 false. But if you want to get the count of it, you use is null.sum. So our data set doesn't have any missing values, therefore it is showing 0. In case you have some missing values, you will see some values here. And these are some other advanced functions which you can check. These are some pandas resources. I have made another tutorial using a YouTube data set. You can check that, which has other functions like merge, apply, transform, duplicate, unstack. But those are a bit advanced functions. So once you work with this data set and familiarize yourself with all these functions, you can move on. The next step would be to check this tutorial. These are other Panda resources which I'm just sharing. So I am done with this. I'm ready to take any questions if you have.
Thank you very much, Yogita. Amazing. You have practically covered the whole of pandas in 1 hour. Great, great.
I want you all to like not to stop, take this data set and move ahead with this assignment. Like what all you can still find out from this data set. Where did our question go? Yeah. Check out like how many beneficiaries. Is it true? Like these all are my hypothesis. Is it true if there are more dependents, they will have higher medical claims? Is it true? Try answering that. Then does age has an effect or higher medical claims for people with higher BMI? All these things you can still verify. I hope you can do it on your own.
Yeah,
with the help of all these functions.
Amazing. Okay, so this is the point where we open the floor for questions and yeah. So if you have any question, you have a contribution, you have something you want to share, this is the right time. You can unmute yourself and go ahead and ask that.
Can I go ahead?
Oh yeah, Anu, go ahead, please.
Okay, so the first thing I wanted to ask was, is Panda only suitable for tabular data or is just for like example for today?
Mostly it will be used with tabular data. Because in case of image and all, I don't think so. Like you can check these values.
Because I was thinking that because the metrics also have rows and columns, so I did not know if it was applicable to.
I have mostly used it with tabular. I have not worked on images or something. But in case of images, if you start working, it would be like in form of pixels. So again, if you want to do something with those pixels and all, then again, it will be in form of rows and columns. Right,
Okay,
Hugo? You're working on image classification, Hugo, right?
No,
you
no,
want to
no,
add
no,
something?
no. This is it. Last week we worked on matrices and determinants, and we used NumPy. So I'm sure his question was, if we don't want to use NumPy for matrix calculations, can we do same in pandas?
Oh,
so yeah.
No, usually if you want to perform a higher mathematical computation, it is better to use NumPy rather than pandas. If you see, the main difference between NumPy and pandas is like you can have different columns with different data types.
Great.
While in NumPy, it will be like all the columns would have same data type. And usually that would be a number.
Great.
So NumPy is basically used in case of computation, mathematical computation.
Great.
Does that clear your doubt?
Yes. Can you also go up where you did add column? I have a question there.
Add column. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So now you put everything on the row for the new column as ABC. So what if there are different values for each of those?
Right now, it was just an abstract. It is all showing as the values are ABC for all the columns. But usually, if you are adding a column, you would add something like if I want to find out, if I want to like bifurcate these charges, like high or low, I can make something like give a condition here. Depending on these data only, I will create a new column. Like if I am creating charges, high underscore low. And then here I will mention the condition like insured and something like charges greater than, maybe charges greater than 3,000. I want them to have the value as Y. And if it is not, I want to have them value as N. Okay. So this is not the right way to do it, but this is just an example. So what will happen if I run this new column, wherever my charges are greater than 3,000, it will have the value as Y. And wherever it is less than 3,000, it will have the value as N. Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, but this is not the way. You will have to use something called as lambda or use an apply function to here. So if you want to check this, you can check it in another tutorial. I didn't want to include it here because then it would get a bit confusing and I don't have enough time to cover it. But that's how you actually add a column. You will mostly adding, like when you are learning machine learning, you would be adding more features or you will derive some features from the existing data. So like here I was deriving a new feature. Similarly, you will do this again and again many times in machine learning. You will derive a new feature. This is where you will mostly add a new column to your data set. Okay. Anything else?
Okay, so for those that are asking for the link to the GitHub and the collab, it's in the chat box. So you'd see the link to the collab. I've posted it there. That's the one that starts with HTTP, Drive, Google, and all that. And the link to the GitHub is the one Nisha posted. All right. So yeah.
You can also download this data set from this particular link, which I had shared before.
Yeah, that's the Kaggle.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You can
Okay.
download it from there, or you can take it from my GitHub.
Yes.
And
So
this is your notebook. You can experiment, add stuff, delete stuff, do whatever you want to do it. But I would advise, once you are done with this, go and answer this assignment, because now you know it fresh. The more you explore it now, the information will stay for a longer time.
Okay,
Anybody
so
has any other doubts?
yeah, okay, so I'm just going to post the Kaggle link in the chat. So let me just do that right away.
I'll put it again in the Slack.
Uh,
I have some Panda cheat sheets.
Yes,
which can help you to work.
there. Right.
Yeah, I'll have some cheat sheet. I'll put it in the Slack. We have for Python class, right? I'll put it there. I'll share this Google link, my GitHub link, my LinkedIn link, and also the Pandas cheat sheet.
Lovely, lovely, lovely. Okay, so is there any other question? Any other clarifications? One more thing, please, when you want to work on the collab, so just so that you do not, how do I put it now? Okay, just when you go to the collab, just download a copy of the notebook for yourself
You
and
can
move it
just
to,
click here and save a
and
copy
save
in
a
Drive.
copy in Drive. So that way,
So you will
go ahead, Yogita.
So when you save it in your own Drive, you will have your own copy of this particular notebook, and you can make your changes, because you'll not be able to make changes to my sheet, my notebook. You just save it, save a copy in Drive, and then open that copy. If you do this, you can see a new collab notebook opens. The same thing will happen for you as well. Okay.
Okay, so I've just been informed that the Kaggle link is not working. Let me just try it from here. I'll try it from here, and let's see. It's not working. It's saying 404.
It's here. No, see,
okay.
I just opened it. If you open it from my notebook, there's a link given. So this is a medical cost personal data set, and this is the insurance CSV, which you can use. You can just say download. Okay. Or I'll upload that also in the Slack, the CSV file.
Okay, Yogita, please help me copy that URL and put it in the link, in the chat box, sorry, in the chat. Thank you. Okay, so that should work right now. Yeah.
There is only one minor difference. This name of the file is insurance.csv.
Okay.
And my name is Access Insurance.
Okay, great.
Yeah, my name is Access Insurance. But the data set is same.
So it's working here, it's working now. All right. So thank you very much, Yogita, and we will surely invite you again some other time.
Thank you.